Let's jump right into this explainer because today we are exploring a paradigm-shifting approach to self-improvement. And spoiler alert, it goes way beyond just sheer willpower. If you've ever felt totally stuck, like you just cannot get a new routine to stick no matter what, well, you're going to want to pay close attention. We're breaking down a brilliant TEDx talk by Kim Foster that literally flips the script on habit building. We aren't just looking at what to do, we're diving into the actual underlying mechanics of change.
So we really have to start here with this deeply relatable question. Why is it so hard to change? It's something the speaker spent 20 years asking, as a doctor, as a coach, and honestly, as someone who used to genuinely believe she just wasn't the kind of person who could change. We have all been there, right? I mean, think about that big New Year's resolution or that milestone birthday goal where you finally stood up and said, okay, that's it, time to turn things around. You feel that massive burst of motivation. But then, well, something happens.
You start frantically grabbing for all these action-based strategies. You download the fancy new habit trackers. You go out and buy a top-of-the-line blender, a thick new yoga mat, and frankly, enough kale to deeply alarm your family. Maybe you even try the 5 a.m. wake-ups or those brutal cold plunges. But fast forward 2 weeks, and you're side-eyeing that blender like it personally betrayed you. You're pretending the habit tracker doesn't even exist, and you are right back to your exact same patterns. It's incredibly frustrating. And as we're going to see, it's a completely universal experience. To show just how intense this struggle can really get, the speaker shares this hilarious but painfully real story. She was struggling with her money habits, so she literally put her credit card in the freezer. And I mean literally, she froze it in a solid block of ice right next to the frozen peas. It was a pretty solid plan, right? A physical barrier to stop her from spending? Well, that is until one night she wanted a pair of boots so badly that she took a hairdryer and melted the ice right off the card. She tried every trick in the book, spreadsheets, cash envelopes, but absolutely nothing lasted. And that leads us straight into this painful, familiar cycle. Step 1, hope. Step 2, effort. Step 3, defeat. You try every single trick. You feel like you are doing absolutely everything right. But when you ultimately fail, you're just left sitting there wondering, gosh, what is wrong with me? But here is the core message. Absolutely nothing is wrong with you. The reason your change isn't lasting isn't because you're doing it wrong. It's because you are asking the wrong question entirely. Section 1, doing versus being. Let's look at a fascinating Stanford study that reveals what actually makes change stick.
So back in 2011, researchers from Stanford and Harvard studied people right before a major election. They took one group and asked, how important is it to you to vote in the upcoming election? Then they asked a second group, how important is it to you to be a voter in the upcoming election? Now, that is just one tiny linguistic shift, going from doing, which is voting, to being, which is a voter. But that tiny shift made people significantly more likely to actually show up at the polls. Why? Because the first question focuses on a single isolated action, while the second focuses completely on self-concept.
You can totally apply this concept to everyday habits and instantly see why some of them stick while others just fizzle out. Think about those people out jogging in the freezing, bitter cold of February, long after the whole New Year's resolution crowd has given up and gone home. They are the ones who say, I am a runner. The folks who just say, oh, I'm trying to run more, yeah, they're usually back on the couch. The action itself is exactly the same, but the internal framing is completely different. So here's the realization. The real obstacle isn't your habits, and it definitely isn't your willpower. The real obstacle is your identity. It's not just what you do, it's who you firmly believe yourself to be. When the speaker froze her credit card in a block of ice, she wasn't just fighting a bad spending habit, she was actively defending an identity. She deeply believed she was someone who was bad with money. And when we believe a negative story like that, we unknowingly write a strict instruction manual for our brains to follow. When we believe the story, we literally live the story. Moving on to Section 2, your outdated operating system. Let's use a modern metaphor to illustrate why trying to fix our lives purely from the outside is just doomed to fail. Okay, think of that shiny new habit you want to start as a brand new app you just downloaded to your phone. It's those new goals, those clever little life hacks, those ambitious morning routines we boldly try to install into our daily lives. They look fantastic, they promise a ton of efficiency, and you are super excited to use them. But underneath all those flashy new apps, you're running an operating system. And for a lot of us, we're running on a seriously outdated OS filled with deeply ingrained beliefs. It's that background code constantly humming away in your head, saying things like, I'm not good at this, or I never follows through, or I always put others first. That Right there is your old identity.
And inevitably, what happens? A system crash. Those new habits, those shiny new apps, they just glitch and crash. And it's not because the habits themselves were wrong or bad, it's simply because they are not supported by the underlying identity system. Real change is never going to last until you do the hard work of updating the system itself, until you upgrade who you believe you are. Because at the end of the day, identity always wins.
And the research absolutely backs this up. Take quitting smoking, for instance. Studies consistently show that people who define themselves as non-smokers are way more successful at quitting than those who tell people, oh, I'm trying to quit. When a behavior naturally aligns with your core identity, your actions just follow suit. But when a new behavior directly challenges the person you have always believed yourself to be, change becomes incredibly, almost impossibly hard.
The speaker uses this fantastic, kind of funny metaphor to explain this resistance. She says, when a new habit doesn't align with your identity, your subconscious mind acts like one of those snobby shop ladies from the movie Pretty Woman. The new habit walks in, and your subconscious just looks it up and down and says, you obviously are in the wrong place. Please leave. Your mind strictly prioritizes what is familiar to it, not what is objectively better for you.
Section 3. Letting go of the old and changing your entire trajectory. You see, identity isn't just about going to the gym more often or saving 20 extra bucks. It actually shapes the entire overarching direction of your life. The speaker uses her own major career transition as the ultimate example here. After 2 full decades practicing as a family doctor, she hit a massive wall. But she realized she wasn't burned out. She was misaligned. She desperately wanted to reach people before they got sick, not just treat them after the fact. She wanted to teach, to create, and help people change their lives in a much deeper, more preventative kind of way.
Yet, for the longest time, she just couldn't seem to walk away. Why? Because of her fierce, unwavering loyalty to her outdated identity as a doctor. She had lived that specific story for so long, she couldn't even imagine another way to be. She just kept telling herself, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what people expect of me. That outdated story was acting like a cage, keeping her small and preventing her from making the leap. And you might feel stuck right now in your own life, but often you aren't actually stuck. You are just being way too loyal to an old story.
Which brings us to this incredibly profound quote from William Faulkner. You cannot swim for new horizons until you have courage to lose sight of the shore. To actually change her life, losing sight of the shore meant having the immense courage to completely let go of who she had been. She had to give herself permission to become someone entirely new, a creator, an educator. These were roles that had absolutely no guaranteed safety net and made zero sense on paper, but they made complete sense inside.
Shedding an old identity is a deeply, deeply emotional process. Let's just walk through her last day at the clinic. Step 1. Handing in the resignation. She thought it would be absolutely terrifying, but surprisingly, it actually just felt true. Step 2. Getting in the car. She sat there in the parking lot and ugly cried for a solid 15 minutes, basically mourning her 17-year-old self who had dreamed of being a doctor. That chapter was over. But then, Step 3. The drive home. With the windows rolled down and the music turned up, she realized she could finally breathe. Changing your identity is terrifying. And yeah, it's sad because it's a loss. But ultimately, it is exactly what sets you free.
Section 4. Who will you become? Redesigning from the inside out. Let's look at the ultimate solution for making real change.
To show how this works in real time, the speaker shares a pretty lighthearted current example. She's currently learning how to golf. And by learning, she means she is humbling herself on a weekly basis in front of retired men named Roger. But here's the kicker. She actively chooses to say, I am a golfer. She bought the shoes, she watches the swing breakdowns on YouTube. She doesn't just say she's dabbling. Because the truth is, you claim an identity while you are becoming it, not after you have flawlessly mastered it. And this brilliantly illustrates the core paradigm shift of this entire explainer. Notice the difference between these two approaches. The action approach asks, what should I do? It's external, it's frantic, and it totally relies on finite willpower. But the identity approach asks, who do I need to become? When you shift your focus to that internal identity, to who you are actively becoming, all those external actions finally start to make sense and align naturally.
True reinvention means acting as the person you are actively becoming today. You are no longer approaching your goals as the person you've been in the past. When you redesign your identity from the inside out like this, it causes a massive ripple effect. Your whole life shifts. It literally changes how you parent, how you lead, how you create, and how you serve others.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final, lingering question. Think about the change you so desperately want to make in your life right now. Seriously, stop asking yourself what new app or daily habit you need to download. Instead, ask yourself this: who do you need to become? Because people who know who they are the ones who actually change.